talk to us about this bill. Does it make sense in the form that it's in now, which includes, you know, a 23% pass-through rate, which was a sort of a special concession to one senator? Also the idea that it's scored now at $1 trillion of a deficit blowout.
Well, I think the core elements still make sense. If you step back, the fundamental problems facing the United States are on the labor front, poor productivity growth, which is translated into essentially no real wage growth. If you look at 2016, households that worked full-time for the full year got zero increase in their real income. That's just not acceptable. On the corporate front, we've seen the tax incentives to push IP overseas, to push some production overseas, to keep earnings overseas, and in many cases just move the headquarters overseas. Those are the core issues that have to be dealt with. The bill addresses those. It gives incentives to invest, innovate, and hire people in the United States. If you do that for the C corporations, you've got to do something for the pass-throughs because more than half of business income gets taxed there. And so 20% corporate rate plus a double tax on about a quarter of corporate earnings translates to roughly a 25% rate. So rough justice, the House and Senate have that set up. Now, there's a lot else in the bill, let's face it, and not everyone's going to like every provision. That's tax reform. But the core question is...
Doug?
Sorry?
Doug, is that the whole thing? Is this the thing here? There's too much focus on specific provisions for the middle class. Yeah. There should be more of a focus on the pro-growth incentives within.
I believe so. I think the single best thing you can do for the middle class of the United States is to give them the opportunity to have a higher standard of living. And that swamps any specific tax provision, whether it's a child credit or doubling the standard deduction. So I think the focus should be on the core elements of the bill. And as it's the nature of tax reform to have things in there that people don't like. That comes with the turf. I think one of the things that Vonnie raised, which is important, is the deficit. No one thinks that it's a good idea for the U.S. to have a larger deficit. So the core calculation you have to make is it worth incurring some more in order to get better pro-growth policy? And that's the calculation you have to make.
Well, what is the answer, Doug? I mean, at the moment, Bob Corker is taking a lot of flack for raising it and for standing his ground. Does he deserve that?
I think it's a principled stand. He cares deeply about the outlook for the federal government, as many people do. And you can come down on either side of that. I would come down in favor of the bill. It's better than the status quo. The status quo is dangerous to America. No growth, losing companies. So we have to move in the right direction. But other people make a different calculation, and you have to respect that.